took me 49 years before I finally came out and told my family I was gay. My stepmother said that she'd known as much since I was a boy, but God-fearing Lancashire families in the 1940s didn't find it easy to actually talk about such things, and so, like most gay men, I have lived the unhealthy life keeping my sexuality secret. Society, in its turn, made the mistake of believing that at best I was a straight heterosexual, or that at worst I had something to be ashamed of and should be treated as a criminal. This is still the case on the Isle of Man. In England and Wales since 1967, it's been legal for men over 21 to make love in private. Scotland, Northern Ireland and Jersey have followed suit, but not the Isle of Man. They recently refused to abolish their arcane law. The island is living in the past, whilst gays live in fear. The island is proud of its democracy, which entitles any Manx citizen to petition the local parliament for change here at the Tynwald. That happens later. At first, people enjoy themselves at what feels like a curious 1940s garden party. Stalls, bring and buy, and bigotry.
Homosexual acts should definitely be illegal in every part of society. There should be no publicity whatsoever for any homosexual activity. Actually, I would without question bring back the birch, and I would birch the homosexuals. And I would make them then do hard labour, and if they then committed the offence again, then I would say hard labour for life because of the harm they cause to society.
And that's exactly how Adolf Hitler punished gays in the 1930s. Today, on the Isle of Man, the law threatens gay lovers with life imprisonment. The Manx gays are taught to behave themselves, keep quiet, and wait for the politicians to act on their behalf.
The change of the law would show a weakening of our general objection to this kind of behavior, and more particularly our concern that it might become more public, and indeed would, as has been proved by what's happened in the adjacent Isle of England.
But what public manifestation of homosexuality would you find so upsetting?
Well, we would find any increase or any public manifestation of it upsetting.
Any public manifestation? Two men holding hands in an affectionate way walking down the street?
Yes, I think that would be most unpleasant. And it's
Why
not
would it be unpleasant?
Expect, because it's not what we expect in an Anglo-Saxon society.
You can be happily married, but I, as a gay man, can live with my partner and have my relationships with him. What business is it of yours that two men should love each other and have a loving, stable relationship?
Because we believe that the spread of or manifestation of homosexual activities is not in the public interest.
What representations did you get from homosexuals in your constituency?
In fact, I got no representations from homosexuals in my constituency.
Of the thousands of gays on the island, not one gave evidence to the Parliamentary Select Committee, which did choose to hear the views of Dorothy Duggan and her bachelor brother Frank.
From Genesis to Revelation, it is crystal clear that God is totally against homosexual practice. Leviticus would equate homosexual practice almost with bestiality. Yes. And it's my firm belief that eventually, because of the permissiveness of society, that eventually we'll have to be dealing with this particular problem of bestiality, which will be condoned, I'm sure, within society.
Do you have any friends who are gay?
Well, we wouldn't use the word gay, actually, because we believe that it's a perversion of a very lovely word. It's purely perverted because of homosexuals.
Would you like a nasty word like queer?
No, we would say sodomite.
You see, I have to tell you, I'm gay myself, and there are many ways of loving somebody other than that particular sexual act.
All these things are so vile and so filthy that not only do they spread AIDS, I've no doubt, but other diseases as well. I mean, that sort of thing didn't happen 8 years ago.
Well, I think it probably did, and I think you probably didn't know about it, you see.
But it's surely increasing.
Fundamentally, that which you are commending, I would hate. I would hate with a profound hatred, because I believe that it is utterly contrary to the will of God. And I believe that eventually that this could, unless there are curbs, unless there are safeguards, it will eventually lead to the destruction of civilization.
Is all this hatred and apocalyptic vision of the end of civilization a truly Christian response to the modest proposal that a man like me should be allowed to make love without being imprisoned for life? On the Isle of Man, there's currently only one citizen brave enough to publicly identify himself as gay. He hopes thereby to improve the situation for all those other gay men who are living in repressed silence. But even Alan Shea is himself clearly frightened.
I'm well known, but also well hated. Now I'm getting in the state that I am terrified to go out. I would stay in now after 8 o'clock. I'm terrified to leave my home.
What do you think might happen if you left your home on your own?
I feel like I will be attacked.
Why are you having to do all this on your own?
Well, the lesbians and gay community here, the gays themselves, by going public, they're identifying themselves, and their families do live here, I understand that. People don't want to come out their closets, I understand that too.
So a courageous gay man comes to the Tynwald, petitioning his parliament to change the law. His Labour camp uniform a reminder of Nazi Germany's treatment of homosexuals. But will his fellow citizens give Alan Shea's petition the humane consideration it deserves, or will they persist in treating him and his fellow gays as outcasts? And if so, when will the British government finally bring the Isle of Man in line with the rest of Europe? To anyone like me who is hoping to establish equality under British law for gay men and lesbians, the outdated, mean-spirited, and frankly barbarous views of an island mentality are all too familiar. You see, Britain itself is an island.
Ian McKellen has met the Prime Minister to argue for reform in the laws affecting homosexuals. Sir Ian went to Downing Street at John Major's personal invitation. The meeting's being seen as a significant shift in the government's attitude towards homosexuality, and it's provoked some anger within the Conservative Party.
Sir Ian McKellen's visit to number 10 is believed to be the first time a Prime Minister has had an official meeting with an activist for homosexual rights. The distinguished actor, who describes himself as an out gay man, said he wished to inform Mr Major on the issues. Homosexuals, here protesting against recent legislation banning the promotion of homosexuality by local councils, argue that the law discriminates against them. For instance, the age of consent is 21, as against 16 for heterosexuals and women. It's illegal for lesbians and gay men in the armed forces to have sex, and some criminal offences apply specifically to homosexuals. A few Tory MPs support law reform, but the Conservative Family Campaign, also backed by some MPs, believes Mr Major's meeting with Sir Ian sends all the wrong signals.
The Conservative Party believes in a strong capitalist economy supported by families. The gay rights agenda is anti-family and anti-Christian, and I would have thought that we'd had enough now of 60s hedonism, and we really ought to be talking about making the country strong through strong families.
Mr Major also met the French Prime Minister Edith Cresson, who's made the jokey claim that a quarter of Englishmen are homosexual. The Prime Minister recently made it possible for homosexuals to be open in the diplomatic service, referring to changing social attitudes. After his meeting, which overran, Sir Ian said he found Mr Major understanding.
There is a shift somewhere in Downing Street, and I suspect it's coming from the top. That's extremely welcome because it matches shifts in Labour Party thinking and of course the Liberal Democrats. There seems to be a consensus now arriving, and I hope they have a battle as to who's going to offer the best thing in their manifestos.
Labour and the Liberal Democrats both have policy commitments on lesbian and gay rights. Any such move by Mr Major would spark controversy within the Tory party.
And now 26 minutes past 1, the main...
Double feature.